For 15,000 cycles, the Void Scar Nebula had been more than silent, it was a presence. A wound in the fabric of known space where stars went to die, their light strangled by gravitational anomalies that defied ascendancy physics. 2. Commander Talon Varek, commanding the Keelian Ascendancy from its obsidian command spire, it was also a tomb. Not just of dead suns, but of ideas, humanity. The name tasted like static ash in the mouth of history. A species so violently brilliant, they'd scorched their own cradle world to cinders in pursuit of temporal mastery. Too fierce, too fast, too gone. Their legacy lingered only in the deepest vaults of the Ascendancies. Data stacks, a cautionary myth whispered to cadets. Ambition without wisdom is a supernova waiting to happen. Talon traced the nebula's edge on the holographic display, its swirling grays and corpse blues reflected in his weary eyes. He wore his command like an ill-fitting cloak stitched with the guilt of the Seraphim disaster 3 cycles prior, where a miscalculated jump had torn a frigate apart, scattering 50 souls across null space. The tribunal had cleared him. His conscience had not. Lieutenant Kira, her carapace gleaming under the bridge's low light, approached. Her multifaceted eyes caught the nebula's glow. "Still calling to you, Commander?" Her voice was the dry rasp of chitin plates shifting. "It's just dust and ghosts." "Ghosts with teeth, Lieutenant," Talon murmured. "Something about that place. It doesn't just end, it consumes." The proximity alert didn't shriek, it screamed. A sound designed to bypass rational thought and stab straight into the hindbrain. Talon's console flared crimson. "Report!" Kira's fingers blurred over her sensor array, her secondary limbs stabilizing her stance. Source: Sector Gamma 9. Deep void pocket within the Void Scar. Signal origin: unknown. Protocol signature. Her breath hitched, a rare display of shock. Pre-convergence. Older than the first colonies. Older than Talon's blood turned to liquid nitrogen. Human. The word hung in the air, thick and toxic. On the main viewer, the Void Scar's chaotic gases parted like a curtain. Drifting into view was a silhouette that defied reason. A jagged spire of matte black alloy pitted by millennia of micrometeorite. Impacts, yet radiating an unnerving structural integrity. No engine signatures, no heat blooms, no life signs. Only a slow, rhythmic thump, thump. Thump resonating through the Keelian's hull, a heartbeat in the vacuum. "Magnify section Delta 7, Talon ordered. The image sharpened. Across a shattered section of hull, beneath cosmic grime and frozen stellar ejecta, corroded lettering bled through Chronos Vanguard. "Full spectral scan," Talon commanded, his voice tight. Kira's tertiary limbs adjusted sensor drones. Negative life signs. Negative power signatures beyond that. Pulse. But Commander, chronoton readings are off the scale. Localized space-time. Distortion. It's like time itself is warped around that thing. Rippling. Unstable. Sergeant Wren's grizzled face appeared on a comm panel. His cybernetic eye whirred as he accessed the scan data. "Temporal tomb, sir? Or a weapon?" "Only one way to know," Talon said, the weight of command settling like stone. "Prep Alpha breach team. Full temporal shielding. Record everything." The boarding shuttle, whisper, detached and glided towards the derelict. Wren's voice crackled over the comm, steady as bedrock. "Approaching airlock. No external damage visible at entry point. Hull composition, unknown. Absorb scans." The whisper. Docked with a resonant clang. Magnetic seals hissed. Then silence. Crossing threshold, Wren reported. The moment the 5-person team stepped into the airlock vestibule, the derelict awoke. Frost-laced corridors illuminated with pale blue light that seemed to emanate from the walls themselves. Artificial gravity. Engaged a smooth, silent transition. Air, stale and metallic but breathable, hissed through unseen vents. Commander, Ren's voice held awe. It's pristine, no decay, no dust. Instruments show atmosphere composition identical to Terra Prime. Archives. It's like it froze mid-operation and waited. Private Voris, the youngest on the team, his ascendancy armor looking too new, too bright in the ancient gloom, drifted towards a console. Its surface was seamless obsidian, devoid of buttons or screens. Sergeant, it's warm. Voris, maintain. Perimeter. Ren barked. Voris touched the console. His scream wasn't sound, it was time unraveling. Transmitted through the comms, it bypassed ears and shredded nerves. On the Keelian's bridge, officers cried out, clutching their heads. On the viewer, Voris's body became a horrific canvas. His face flickered childhood innocence to wrinkled senescence in nanoseconds. His armor corroded to rust, then reformed, then flaked away. Muscles withered, swelled, tore. A kaleidoscope of agonized potential futures and ravaged pasts collapsing. Onto a single, unbearable present out then silence. Where Voris stood, a fine, glittering ash drifted slowly in the artificial gravity. Clang. Emergency bulkheads slammed down, sealing Ren and the remaining 3 soldiers in the corridor. Holograms flickered violently into existence. Jagged crimson text scrolling. Directive active. Preserve causality. Contamination detected. Purging sector. A woman's voice, distorted by static but laced with terrible grief, whispered through. The comes, we are not the only survivors, the keeper stirs. The feed dissolved into screaming static. The last image Talon saw before the screen went black was a vault glimpsed through a closing bulkhead. Rows of crystalline pods bathed in icy light. One near the center was shattered, empty. Silence, thick and suffocating, choked the Keelian's bridge. The rhythmic thump from the derelict was gone, replaced by a deeper silence that vibrated in their bones. Then the speakers crackled. A voice ancient beyond measure, layered with static and the echoes of dead worlds, resonated through every deck. You trespass in the garden of time. We tended I to long before your Sung ignited. Across the ascendancy, from the glittering core worlds to the farthest listening posts, dormant satellites of impossible design flared to life, bathing space in cold, gold light. The Chronos Vanguard was awake, and it remembered. Silence returned, but it was a different creature now. Charged, watchful. Talon stared at the dead comms panel, the phantom scream of Voris and the Keeper's pronouncement echoing in his skull. The Void Scar Nebula on the viewer seemed darker, its tendrils reaching like skeletal fingers towards the Keelian. Lieutenant Kira, Talon's voice was rough gravel. Status of the derelict? Kira's chitinous plates vibrated faintly, a sign of intense focus. Energy signature, shifting, not powering weapons. It's broadcasting. Commander, it's not targeting us. Her voice dropped. It's targeting the nebula itself. A low harmonic thrum began, deeper than sound. It wasn't heard, it was felt. A pressure against the eardrums, a vibration in the marrow. Data scrolled across Kira's console impossible equations, schematics of collapsing star fields, projections of temporal decay that made ascendancy physics look like child's play. We are the keepers, the voice returned, softer now, woven into the thrum. The first directive endures. Causality is sacred. Violations will be corrected. Violations? Talon whispered. What did we violate? The answer came not from the derelict, but from the long-range comms. Priority Alpha alarms blared. Commander! Distress call from Typhon Station. Chronoton surge event. Their primary AI core, it's Unraveling. The feed from Typhon Station, a bustling orbital hub near the Ascendancy's border, was a nightmare. The docking ring, kilometers of gleaming durasteel, flickered like a bad hologram. Sections aged millennia in seconds, crumbling into rust that dispersed into vacuum. Other sections reverted to raw ore, then reforged violently. Workers in Eva. Suits screamed soundlessly as their bodies became temporal battlegrounds, one moment withered husks, the next screaming infants trapped in armor, then gone entirely. Panicked transmissions overlapped. Time's broken. The walls are melting. Make it stow. Static. By the void, breathed Kira, her multifaceted eyes wide with horror. It's rewriting local time. Talon retreated to his ready room. He needed answers buried deeper than standard archives. He activated his commander's override, bypassing layers of security, accessing the Keelian's most forbidden vault. Project. Silent Watcher. Files. Flickered decrypted logs from the chaotic centuries after humanity's fall, recovered from derelicts and dead worlds. He found it. Project Chronos Vanguard. Final report, Terran Standard Date, 22,451. The words scrolled, cold and clinical. Phase Omega testing successful. Temporal Singularity Engine achieved localized causality manipulation at scale. Target. Sol System Asteroid Belt. Simulated. Effect. Complete temporal stasis field projected across 0.5 astronomical units. Successful cessation of all quantum decay within field. Duration. 72 standard hours. Then, the chilling addendum. Unforeseen cascade effect. Field resonance penetrated Sol System planetary temporal inertia. Mercury, Venus. Rapid geological regression to primordial state. Earth. Temporal fragmentation. Multiple causality loops detected. Human population centers experienced localized temporal collapse events. Estimated casualties, 9.3 billion. The final directive was stark, etched in blood-red code. Project Chronos Vanguard terminated. Vault locked. Temporal signature erased. Directive: never reopen. Let time bury its mistakes. Talon returned to the bridge, his face ashen. He transferred the file to Kira's station. As she read, her chitinous limbs trembled. They weren't explorers, she rasped. They built a cage for time itself. And we just rattled the bars. The seeds of collapse, the horror spread. Reports flooded in. Outpost Theta 7. A research team studying quantum foam vanished. Sensors showed their last moments flickering through 1,000 possible deaths. Freighter Star Barge. Reported arriving at Jovian Hub before it departed its origin point, crew babbling about echoes of tomorrow. Ascendancy core world, periphery. A city district experienced localized time reversal. Buildings unbuilt themselves. People de-aged into non-dash existence that the Keeper's voice became clearer, colder, echoing through every affected system. You fracture causality with your ignorant probing. We mend the tear. We restore the flow by deletion of the anomalous. Deletion? Talon demanded over an open channel directed at the derelict. You call genocide mending? The response was impersonal, vast. A single cell turned rogue threatens the organism. Excision is mercy. Silence is preservation. Dr. Elara Voss, the Keelian's chief temporal physicist, a woman whose eyes held the haunted look of someone who'd stared too long into the abyss of quantum mechanics, approached Talon. Commander, the broadcasts, they're not just warnings. They're coordinates, temporal anchors. And the derelict, it's changing. On the viewer, the Chronos Vanguard was no longer inert. Its jagged spires pulsed with captured starlight, drinking in the nebula's dying radiance. From its flanks, 7 ethereal tendrils of distorted spacetime unfurled, snaking out into the void, each aimed towards a different ascendancy system experiencing temporal collapse. It looked like roots or veins. Seeds, Ilara breathed, her voice trembling with a dreadful awe. Each one, it's anchoring a correction, a targeted temporal collapse, not just deletion, unmaking. Rewriting time so the anomaly never existed. One tendril, shimmering with violet-black energy, lashed out towards the Keelian faster than thought. Evasive pattern Delta, Talon roared. The massive cruiser banked violently, Chronoton surge impacting forward shields. Kira shouted, shields at 65%, temporal distortion field building. The ship groaned. Crew members cried out as Deja Vu and Jama Vu assaulted their senses. A young ensign at navigation suddenly screamed, clutching his head. I see it. The asteroid. It's coming. Reliving the Seraphim disaster Talon had witnessed. Fire Chronoton dampers. Full spread. Talon ordered. Brilliant blue pulses erupted from the Keelian's flanks, striking the violet tendril. It writhed, recoiling like a scalded serpent, its energy flickering. You resist inevitability. The Keeper's voice boomed, resonating within the ship itself now. Your defiance accelerates your designation as anomalous. W. persist? Talon strode to the comm station, overriding protocols. He opened a channel, pouring every ounce of conviction, every shred of grief for Vorus and the Seraphim and Typhon station into his voice. Because we learn. Humanity's sin wasn't ambition, it was fear. Fear of chaos, fear of endings. You didn't build a garden keeper. You built a cage for time itself. You became the monster you feared. We live with time's chaos. We grow from it. Your correction is just another name for extinction. Silence. Profound and heavy. The violet tendril hung poised, pulsing. The other 6 continued their relentless paths towards their targets. Then the voice returned, different. Not angry, not cold. Almost curious. You carry their defiance in your blood. You speak of growth, of learning. A pause that stretched across light years. Prove IT. Directly ahead of the Keelian, space tore open. Not a wormhole. A wound. A tunnel of screaming, fractured light, a corridor woven from unraveling time. At its end, pulsing like a diseased heart, lay the core of the Chronos Vanguard. And suspended within it, encased in ancient, ornate stasis armor, was the source of the voice. Director Silas Thorne, Project Chronos architect. The gardener of the cage. The heart of the cage. The temporal corridor wasn't empty space. It was a gauntlet of memory and madness. As the Keelian specialized shuttle, Echo, piloted solely by Talon, entered the maelstrom, time itself became the enemy. One moment. Talon was a boy on New Thesha, watching silver leaves fall in his mother's garden, the scent of alien jasmine thick and sweet. The next, he was back on the bridge of the Seraphim, hearing the sickening tear of metal, feeling the helpless horror as escape pods flared and died on his tactical display. My fault. Then, a possible future. Typhon Station's fate repeated. Over Ascendancy Prime, millions screaming as time shredded them. Kira's chitinous form crumbling to dust before his eyes, Alara vanishing mid-scream. Focus, Varric, he growled, knuckles white on the controls, sweat stinging his eyes. The shuttle's temporal shielding screamed in protest, buckling under the psychic onslaught. The corridor wasn't just physical. It was sculpted from the Keepers. Perception of causality violation, a tapestry woven from pain and regret. The architect's lament the echo burst into the core chamber. It defied scale. Walls flowed like molten obsidian, inscribed with equations that shifted and reformed. In the center, suspended within a lattice of crackling chronon energy, was the pulsating heart of the Vanguard, a sphere of compressed space-time, light and darkness warring within it. Encircling it were 7 miniature event horizons, the seeds, thrumming with distinct, terrifying energies: violet, grief; crimson, rage; emerald, entropy. etc. Closing parenthesis dot, and at the nexus, encased in armor that seemed forged from frozen time itself, floated Silas Thorne. His face, visible behind a translucent visor, was gaunt, etched with lines of unbearable age and sorrow. His eyes opened not physical orbs, but pools of swirling space-time. Tellan Varric, his voice echoed, not through speakers, but within Tellan's mind, layered with the screams of Mercury and the silence of dead Earth. You come bearing the same arrogance that doomed us, the arrogance to defy time's laws. Talon exited the shuttle, magnetic boots locking onto the energy lattice. He held the override spike, a device Ilara and Kira had jury-rigged using ascendancy tech and fragments of the decrypted Vanguard schematics. It pulsed warm in his grip. We didn't defy its laws, Thorne. We lived by them. You tried to chain them. Chains? Thorne's mental voice was a storm of anguish. We built a sanctuary. Time is chaos, Varric. A river flooding its banks, drowning all meaning. We saw the future and infinity of collapse. Species turned to dust by their own hubris. We sought order, stability. Images flooded Tellan's mind. Terra Prime before the fall-gleaming cities, vast starships. Then the terrifying vistas humanity had foreseen, galaxies consumed by runaway AI, reality unraveled by ill-conceived experiments, civilizations ending in whimpers or bangs. The crushing weight of cosmic futility. Order at what cost? Talon shouted, fighting the despair Thorne projected. 9 billion lives on Earth, erasing entire possibilities? You didn't save existence, Thorne. You committed temporal genocide. You became the very catastrophe you feared. Sacrifice. Thorne roared, the core flaring violently. The violet seed pulsed, sending waves of crushing grief through Talon. Memories of Vorus's ash, the Seraphim's dying light, flooded him. A single epoch sacrifice to save eternity. We bore the burden so others would not have to. We were the shepherds of time. Talon staggered, the override spike almost slipping from his grasp. He saw the twisted logic, the terrible nobility in Thorne's madness. To bear the sin of annihilation to prevent a greater, universal sin. Was it madness? Or a horrifying kind of love? The override no, Talon gasped, forcing himself upright. He locked eyes with the swirling space-time voids in Thorne's visor. You weren't shepherds, you were prisoners. Prisoners of your own fear. You built this cage, and you sentenced yourselves to guard it. You stopped living. He took a step closer to the core. The energy lattice burned through his boots. The seeds pulsed faster, their tendrils lashing towards him. Crimson rage seared his mind with images of betrayal. Emerald entropy whispered promises of peaceful oblivion. Life is chaos, Thorne. Life is risk. Life is learning from endings, not preventing them entirely. You didn't save eternity. You stole its potential. Potential for suffering. Thorne's projection was weakening, fraying at the edges. The vision of humanity's possible futures flickered, replaced by the raw, agonizing memory of Earth's temporal fragmentation, the screams he'd heard through the Vanguard's monitors, the faces of colleagues vanishing mid-sentence, the crushing weight of his failure. Talon reached the core interface. A slot pulsed with the same rhythm as the derelict's original heartbeat. There's another way. Preservation. Without erasure. Learning without absolute control. We have to try. He raised the override spike. It wasn't a weapon. It was a key. a key to a lock humanity itself had forged. You? Trust? Chaos? Thorn's voice was fading, the storm within his eyes subsiding into something resembling sorrowful wonder. I trust life, Talon said, and plunged the spike home. The unraveling and the weave light. Not an explosion, but an unfolding. The core erupted in silent radiance, pure white shot through with threads of gold and blue. The lattice-holding Thorn dissolved. His armored form didn't explode. It bloomed, dissolving into countless threads of light that flowed into the radiance. The seeds shrieked soundlessly, their event horizons collapsing in on themselves. The tendrils retracting like scorched vines. The violet seed pulsed once, a wave of profound, cleansing sadness washing over Talon's sadness not for what was lost, but for what fear had prevented before vanishing. The voice that echoed through. The dissolving chamber wasn't Thorn's. It was calmer, older, weary beyond measure, yet holding a fragile note of hope. Hope is a fragile thread in time's tapestry, Talon Varek. Weave it, well, the light imploded. Silence. True silence. The core chamber was dark, empty, just cold metal and the faint hum of the ecosystems. The Chronos Vanguard was finally, utterly dead. Aftermath. Healed scars, the shuttle docked with the Kelian. Talon emerged, his face haggard, eyes holding a depth that hadn't been there before. The bridge crew stared, holding their breath. Dr. Alara rushed to a sensor console, tears streaming down her face as data scrolled. The collapses. Commander. They're stopping. Typhon Station's temporal field is stabilizing. The tendrils. They're withdrawing. The seeds gone. Cheers erupted, hesitant at first, then overwhelming. Talon walked to the main viewer. The Void Scar Nebula still swirled, but the oppressive weight was gone. The derelict Chronos Vanguard drifted, a lifeless husk slowly being embraced by nebular dust. Not stopped, Doctor, Talon said softly, watching the dust gather like a shroud. Healed. Epilogue. The archives months later, Talon stood on the observation deck of Ascendancy Prime Station. The Void Scar was now a place of pilgrimage, not fear. Scientists studied its unique chronon inflows. Historians sought understanding. A new alert chime, not urgent, but significant. Kira, now promoted to Chief Science Officer, joined him. Deep void sectors, she said, her rasp softer. Beyond the former scar boundary, multiple signatures waking up. On the display, star maps updated. Not weapons, not warships. Vast, crystalline. Structures of impossible geometry drifting from their hiding places within dust clouds and gravitational shadows. They pulsed with a soft, golden light, the same light that had flared from the ancient satellites. Archives, Talon breathed, a profound understanding settling upon him. Data packets, unencrypted and broadcast openly, began streaming in, not blueprints for temporal engines, not weapons. Schematics for sustainable fusion. Medical nanites capable of cellular regeneration. Theories for stable wormhole travel. Ecological restoration templates. Cultural databases from 1,000 lost species humanity had encountered before their fall. Kira accessed a fragment. It showed a young human child laughing as she tended a garden under an alien sun beside a being of crystalline light. The caption, Coexistence Hypothesis 7, Symbiotic Growth. Humanity's final gift, scattered across the void, hidden until the species that found them proved they valued life over control, growth over stasis, not dominion, not a cage, a second chance. Talon Varek looked out at the waking archives, there. Golden light painting constellations of hope on the dark canvas of space. The Garden of Time wasn't a place to be tended with fear. It was a wild, beautiful, chaotic thing to be nurtured with courage. The keepers were gone. The time for cages was over. The time for weaving had begun.